But first, let's talk about the NHS, the National Health Service. It's the envy of the world, our amazing NHS. It's not amazing and it's not the envy of the world. It's actually a bit of a basket case, spending way too much money and it's incredibly inefficient, full of wokery, full of diversity and full of unqualified medical middle managers who all earn hundreds of thousands of pounds a year. Now, the NHS is now talking about reversing out of some of this crazy workery that they've had, in which they refuse to refer to women as women, instead called them chest feeders or people with cervixes, people who get pregnant. It's misogynistic, it's sexist, and it's got to stop. The NHS says it is going to do this. Let's talk to NHS GP and broadcaster here on Talk, of course, Dr Renee Hoenderkamp. Welcome, Renee.
Hello, Kevin. Well done on your new show. It's like going back in time.
Isn't it just? Yes, you were a regular. Maybe we'll get that going again. Call Dr Renee. In fact, we will get it going. But let's deal with this story first. I know it'll be music to your ears. Talking about people with ovaries, people with cervixes, all of this nonsensical sex-specific language. It's going to stop, they say, and that patients, particularly women, will be able to say what kind of ward they go into. They'll be allowed to demand safe sex areas with people of their own sex, no trans women. So what are your feelings about this? Do you trust the NHS to actually carry this very sensible innovation out?
Right. So to start with, I've dug around in this and I've had a look at the small print. And yes, absolutely, Kevin, this is the right thing to do. To actually stop erasing women from our medical healthcare system has to be the right thing to do for so many reasons. However, what Victoria Atkins is talking about here is the NHS Constitution, which is a set of rules by which the NHS should at least consult when they're making their plans. There's a legal obligation for them to do so. What she's saying is she would like to change the NHS Constitution to actually bring back normal biology, men, women, not reduce us to a body part, because that's what's been happening. However, in the small print, Kev, it does say that they're going to put it out to an 8-week consultation.
Oh, God, really?
Why? Why can't they just for once in their lives make a decision that they know 99% of the public agree with? You know, we all want our grandma or our mum to be on a ward with other women, because we know that when there are men in those wards, whether they pretend to be women or not, sexual assaults happen and often go unnoticed and are traumatizing, especially when you've got people with dementia, for example.
Yeah, I mean, the question to ask, really, Renee, I mean, you know, it's depressing what you just said, and I'm not at all surprised. Oh, you know, it's not quite what we thought it was. Mm-hmm. But at least Victoria Atkins, the Health Secretary, and a few people at the NHS at least are considering this important issue. But my question to you is, how did it happen in the first place? How did the NHS, our health service, arrive at a point where it referred to women as people with cervixes, as opposed to women?
Yes, exactly. And I can tell you how it happened, Kevin. It happened because all of these big organisations, from banks to, you know, civil servants to hospitals, got inveigled with Stonewall and other charities like its champions of LGBTQ. So they would sign up to this, they'd pay Stonewall money, Stonewall would come in and say, oh dear, you're not doing very well on the champions list because you call women women. And what about the men who want to be called women? You need to change your language if you want to go up our chart. And so it carries on and carries on. They give training to everyone, and even when they've withdrawn from those organisations, they don't need to do their work anymore, because they've trained all these young people who've been through our university systems, and they are now running the show. And I can tell you, Kevin, if they're going to implement this, which they should, they're going to have to get rid of some very senior managers who are completely and utterly sold into this ideology. They think it's fabulous.
Talking of them and talking of the NHS potentially turning over a new leaf, as you say, probably fairly doubtful, will it at any point stop wasting millions of pounds on pointless diversity officers who never helped a patient in their lives, who can't treat patients because they're not doctors? Will it think about reducing the number of medically unqualified middle managers who earn £100,000 or more? Because that number is a staggering 3,500. Is it going to stop wasting money like a basket case?
Do you know what, Kevin? If this was a private business, all of that would never have happened in the first place, was it? Why does the NHS need climate and diversity officers? Why? What they need are doctors who can treat people quickly, get waiting lists down and make people better. I sat in my practice the other day and I helped an elderly gentleman fill out a form for podiatry. He needed someone to look at his toenails. The first 3 pages were asking him what the colour of his skin was, what his sex was, what his sexual preferences were. In the end, I put a line through all 3 pages and wrote across it, he's a man and he's this age.
And he's got bad toenails.
To know. All you need to know.
Unbelievable. I mean, why has this happened? As I say, I mean, the NHS gets 200 million quid a year or thereabouts. And 200 billion a year. 200 million, that would be good, wouldn't it? 200 billion a year or thereabouts, and it just does waste all this money on pathetic, pointless wokery. You know, I'm against wokery, but I've got nothing against people who are for wokery, people who love wokery. Fine, go for it, but not in the NHS, not at my expense. This is costing millions and millions of pounds. Diversity officers, inclusivity officers, middle managers on fortunes doing jobs that they can't even work out what they are themselves. How has the NHS become such a madhouse?
It has become a madhouse, but the thing is, it's really easy because it's so huge, employing so many people spread over so many different little silos that individually, someone would say to you when you said that, Kev, oh, come on, Kev, it's a drop in the ocean, it's nothing. But actually, when you add up all those drops, it is an ocean, and it's an ocean that needs to actually be curtailed and drained. We need to get rid of all this and go back to basics. Whether they're going to do it or not, because you know what's going to happen to that consultation. The wokery and the woke lobby are going to absolutely bombard it and take control of it. And normal people are just going to be getting on with their lives.
So we should watch this space. Don't expect the NHS to turn over a new leaf yet. By the way, when you said that about... So whenever I'm having arguments with my horrendous North London Liberal friends about the NHS...
I know them.
You know, and I always go, what about the diversity officers? What about the 3,500 people they waste hundreds of thousands of pounds a year on? They always go... I knew you would say that. Yeah, because it's logical to say that. Drives me nuts.
They can't bear it, Kevin. They don't have an answer, so it's easy to just try and shut it down, like, oh, it's just so tiny, or I knew you would say that.
That's it.
You know, because they don't have an answer.
Yeah, exactly. They try to degrade your argument by saying it's a cliche. Well, cliches aren't necessarily bad arguments. And if it's a cliche that the NHS wastes money like water, then keep the cliche coming because it's true. Fantastic to talk to you, Renee, as always.